British bases out! 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 British bases out!
Britain has been spying on Gaza throughout Israel's genocide, and one of the reasons it's able to do this is because of the bases that it has maintained on Cyprus, an island on the eastern Mediterranean that many people think was decolonized decades ago. Joining me now to discuss this is Seviros Koulas, the General Secretary of the United Democratic Youth Organization, which has been holding protests at one of the key spy stations on Cyprus.
Hello, Phil. Very nice to have this discussion with you, and thank you very much for it.
Can you set the scene and tell us about the protests that you did last month up in the mountains of Cyprus against this very secretive spy station, just days after Britain had sent fighter jets from Cyprus to bomb Yemen?
Our action that took place in Troodos Mountains, it's a custom that runs 65 years ago. The first, let's say, trip to Troodos was back in 1959. It's an action, a protest that it's both by Greek Cypriots of EDON and Turkish Cypriot youth, progressive Turkish Cypriot youth from the northern part of Cyprus, which is occupied. We demand the end of the presence of the British bases in Cyprus. And on the second part, it's putting forward our common struggle, Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot youth, for a reunification of our island, for a peace solution in the Cyprus problem. This action have been taking place for many years, but it comes more up to date, let me say, because of the situation of the escalation in the Middle East, because of the genocidal attack of the State of Israel against Palestine, and the use of the British bases in this war, in these strikes. The presence of the British bases in Cyprus is an obsolete remnant of the colonialism era. And at the same time, the presence of the British bases in Cyprus undermine the self-determination of the Cypriot people. It's time that the British bases must leave the country.
And for people who aren't so familiar with Cyprus, perhaps I should explain that there's these sovereign base areas in the south and the southeast of the island, Akrotiri and Declassified, that comprise around 3% of Cyprus's land.
British bases in Cyprus actually have only one goal: to help in their in the plans of the British and USA and NATO of actually spying the region to make they make our country a part of espionage for their as they understand enemies, and they have nothing to do with the Cypriot people. They have nothing to offer to the Cypriot people, only more danger regarding Cyprus being a part of the wars that have been started or they are ongoing in the region.
Seviros, you mentioned that there's also American military personnel at some of these British bases on Cyprus. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Are they from the NSA, the National Security Agency?
American soldiers have been seen inside the bases, and because we're a small island and everyone's know everyone. It's even if, for example, the Cyprus government has said nothing to the people of Cyprus about what's going on inside the base, and if the Cyprus government have accepted this and it's been under an agreement, I don't know, a secret agreement, they said nothing about that. But the people know, we've seen. It's been said that there are around 3,000 American soldiers inside the British base of Akrotiri. Our disagreement, let's say, with all of this situation is both ethical and political. Ethical by the means that we are supporting the Palestinian people because we are a country under occupation. We know how it is to have unoccupied land as the Palestinians, and we support the struggle and we demand a sovereign Palestinian states on the borders of 1967 with East Jerusalem as its capital. But it's also, let's say, political with the meaning that Cyprus should not be part of any war plan, of any, let's say, discussion of being part of the US, NATO, British, and the European Union plans about the region.
So this protest that you do on Mount Troodos, it's an annual occasion, but this year was particularly pertinent because of the genocide in Gaza and the airstrikes in Yemen. What was the mood like among the activists there? People obviously seeing the suffering going on in Gaza. It's only 200 miles away.
The protesters were very passionate about the cause. They were very angry about the situation. It wasn't a march that happened because it had to happen. It was meaningful. It was hundreds of young people. The vast majority was young people.
You represent quite an experienced organization. It's a youth movement, but it has quite an established history in Cyprus. Can you tell us a little bit more about what is the United Democratic Youth Organization?
Our organization, EDON, is the successor of the Progressive Youth Organization, which was called AON, that was founded in 1944. EDON created in 1959 because the previous organization was found illegal by the British colonialists. And so we created a new organization as a continuance. So this year, in 2024, we are counting 80 years of life and presence. We are the biggest and oldest youth organization in the islands, and we are an independent, democratic, and mass political organization oriented in the left on the political spectrum, let's say. And we are fighting very constantly regarding the reunification of our island, about workers' rights, about youth rights, education.
In a lot of countries in Europe and in the West generally, the left is now quite weak. And people might be watching this and they'll see footage of the protests and they'll think, it's great that you're doing this protest, but is there any real chance of change? You're going up against the UK and the US, these big imperialist powers. Can you explain a little bit about actually how your youth movement does have a connection with the main opposition party in Cyprus that has been in power not that long ago? And, maybe in Cyprus, there is actually more potential for the left to have an impact and change these policies.
Actually, yes. In Cyprus, despite what the general image in the European Union is, the left is one of the two biggest parties of the island, historically, not only in the recent years. And actually, the upcoming European elections in this June may find the party even with more power than before. This is, for example, what the first polls have been showing, that maybe the party of the left may finish first in the upcoming elections. And yes, there is a mass movement of the left in Cyprus. Historically, the left party, the left youth organization, ourselves, and the trade unions of the left has been the most mass ones. And what we say is that our struggle for the end of the presence of the British bases in Cyprus, for example, and the role that the Americans play in the country, it's linked to the struggle we give for the peace in Cyprus, for the reunification of Cyprus. Because if we manage to find a common solution that will be agreed by both sides, Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots, will create actually a new era regarding Cyprus as a whole, as a country. And after we unite our island and we unite our people, it will be a much different situation, a much different discussion. If the people understand the power they have in their hands, they can overthrow everything.
Something that people have mentioned when I've interviewed activists from Cyprus before, something that they ask about is whether these British bases on the island are actually popular among some of the Greek Cypriot community, because they see it as a bit of a safety net in case the Turkish Cypriot community try and encroach more on the south of the island. What's your response to that?
I could say that is the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. The presence of the British bases in Cyprus can be only danger for the island, because they are putting us inside the map of the war zone, and at the same time, it's not. You can see, from example, from older polls inside the Cyprus society, that Cypriots have always have a bad eye, let's say, a bad opinion about both USA, NATO, and the British military forces, because we have been suffering from them for decades and decades. I mean, we gave a lot of fight to be an independent state against the British colonialism. After that, we know that the CIA played a key role in the orchestration of both the coup d'etat that happened in Cyprus and the Turkish invasion. It was actually something that was planned by NATO back in 1974. So the people of Cyprus will be more than happy to see a decision by the UK to put an end to the presence of the British bases in Cyprus.